But right now, we are going to be talking about the first theater experience I've had since COVID. Uh, we went to see A Quiet Place 2. We'll be talking about the movie. And honestly, the theater experience, which I will say will be very quickly go over because there's not a whole lot to say about the pure theater experience. We also will be talking about Loki Episode 2. I will have a little bit of background noise. The kids are here. I want to do an abbreviated episode, but I want to keep this up. I want to do another episode every week. We will talk about WandaVision versus Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I'll do kind of my brief comparison of that, and I'm going to tell you right now that a lot of that's going to be off the top of my head. I'm not sure where I'm going to land on that one, even right now as I'm recording. I don't know where I'm going to land on that one. And then something that was brought up for my soapbox, I'm going to be discussing, did I regret my vote for Biden? I brought up a lot of my issue with Joe Biden, and I criticize him a lot. Do I regret voting for him? That'll be my soapbox for today. So let's go ahead and just dive right into... Background noises are fun. Let's dive into my theater experience. So we went to see A Quiet Place 2. It's the first movie I've actually seen in theaters since The Invisible Man. Was that February or March? Was Invisible Man the last one? Was it like Invisible Man and Sonic the Hedgehog were like towards the end? I think Invisible Man we saw after Sonic the Hedgehog, but I'm not certain on that. But yeah, that was a last theater experience I've had until A Quiet Place 2. Which I guess have been out for a couple weeks, but I haven't been keeping an eye on theaters and haven't really considered going to one. But my son really wanted to go to a theater. So the theater experience was different. I ordered the tickets online as I usually do, and then it also was order the food online, which I did, and I'm not sure if there's any advantage to that at all at this point. It was kind of wonky because it's supposed to be pre-made and ready for you, and it wasn't. They just had to put together when I got there. So, so that was that. And then the theater was more empty than you'd expect for a movie that hasn't been out that long, for obvious reasons, of course. I want to say there's 3 groups of us there. We were like in the middle, and then there's a group way up front, and then a group in the back. And that was about it. I would say maybe 12 to 15 people in the theater total, but separate off into 3 groups, so it was not congested at all. Plenty of separation. Overall, the theater experience was just fine. There was someone up ahead, a couple rows. The group up front, there was someone that kept on looking at their phone, which kind of drove me a bit nuts. But I also found my kids talked a little bit more than I was used to, and I had to remind them, be like, shh, movie theater, other people are here. But yeah, other than that, it was about what I remember. Nothing spectacular. We, of course, went to a nice recliner theater, so that's always fun. As for the movie itself, Quiet Place 2 is really, if you go to Rotten Tomatoes, it's getting really good reviews. I thought it was fine. It is, much like this podcast, is the glowing essence of adequacy. It is, it's a good way to describe it. It's a sequel to the story of the first one, but not to the themes of the first one. What I like so much about the original Quiet Place was that it felt like it had this theme of talking and how we all need to communicate with each other and how that's the key to all this. Part of the problem with the family was how the daughter and the father didn't communicate well, and they're learning to communicate with each other, which was the strength of that movie, that it's them learning to communicate. And this one seems to just carry on the story, but not really the themes. I guess you could say the themes kind of get repeated, where the daughter, who's deaf, and full-fledged spoilers, just FYI. The daughter who's deaf, they meet up with a friend from the beginning. The beginning's all this prequel stuff. So it's day one. It gives John Krasinski a chance to actually be an actor for a couple minutes in this movie. But anyways, we see an old friend who's still alive. The family goes to him after the events of the first one. They go to see this old friend who's still alive. And the deaf daughter hears a broadcast of Beyond the Sea. She theorizes that it's a island off the sea. approximately here, and approximately on my hand. No, approximately on this point on the map she points to. They think she's crazy. She goes off on her own. The mom goes to this family friend and says, hey, can you go track her down? He's kind of freaked out from the world, and he doesn't want to, but he does. And kind of, at best, if you want to say the themes are still alive, they just get replayed between him and her. But if you want to say that, they're not nearly as powerful. It's not nearly as effective. It's barely there, I would say. But largely, this movie just kind of carries on the story. Kind of like, what is the next step? Which is fine, but at the same time, I also feel like if we're going to be taking the first movie literally, just as a raw story about these sound creatures coming to attack us, if we take that literally and ignore the themes, literally that movie is pretty freaking dumb. Because now we start getting into the arguments, oh, well, why don't they just live by the waterfall? Why aren't they soundproofing the crap out of their house super effectively? I mean, we see them do a little bit, but not nearly what you'd want to do in that situation. Like, you would literally be going to some place like Joann Fabrics or literally any place like that, getting those huge rolls of foam and padding your house with it. Because you need to soundproof the crap out of it. Just so that if you drop something, they don't come and kill you. You know, if we watch the first movie and we're watching it for themes, it's actually spectacular, and John Krasinski directs the hell out of it. If we're watching it for story, there's lots of holes in it. Now, this second one, like I said, just follows the story. So that means it doesn't have as many holes because they're traveling around more. But at the same time, if we're taking this literally, do we have to take the first one literally and kind of ignore the themes? Because it's one of those things where it's like, it hurts the first one more than it works on its own, but kind of hurts the first one if we're now taking it literally. It was one of the issues with doing a sequel to A Quiet Place, because its themes are good, but now we're continuing the story and ignoring the themes, and I'm feeling like a broken record a bit. But A Quiet Place 2, it is that, but there's some stupid stuff in here too. Because they go to the island and they discover there are people here. And that is, they go... Yeah, I lose my train of thought right there. They find the people, and they hang out there. And one of the things that happens is, we discover the creatures can't really swim. Okay, fine. And then, so they go to the island on the boat. Well, what ends up happening is one of the creatures ends up hooking itself to a boat separate from them, and kind of, I guess, drifting to this island on this boat, and then it attacks this island, which I'm kind of mind blown. Number one, they don't have anybody to watch for that possibility, which I guess that's fine, maybe, but wow, what are the odds of that happening? This thing that can barely swim, just barely hang on to this boat, hangs on to this boat long enough, it just happens to end up on this island where it can kill a whole bunch of people who don't know any better. How does that happen? I also have to wonder, are other islands safe? Is Hawaii safe? I don't know. But yeah, the whole creature hanging on to a boat and just happens to drift over there, that's something else. And now we have to go into one of the more just weird things that bugged me. So obviously, I never even thought about this, but there are no real people of color that I remember in the first movie. And I guess they tried to remedy that, because now they have 2 black people in this movie. It's not usually something I would take note of, but we see them both die. They have speaking roles, and they both die. And it's one of those cliches where it bugs me. Why are you doing that? It's like in X-Men First Class. What was that, 2011? X-Men First Class. Darwin is the one to die, of course. And it's such a cliche in all these horror movies. Or like X-Men First Class is an action movie. The black guy dies. And now in this movie, we literally have two black guys, and they both die. Ugh, that's like I get. Like, obviously, I think Krasinski means well and he wants representation in this movie, but he does it, and then he does it in the most cliche way possible. And it's kind of a shame because, like, Krasinski directs the hell out of these movies. There is so much setup and payoff in these movies, and it's not even like it kind of works for me. It's super obvious, but it works for me. It's less, oh God, of course they're going to do something with that, and more, ooh, I wonder when they're going to do something with that. I'm more interested when it's going to happen. So, do I like A Quiet Place 2? Yes, but it's nothing special, I would say. It's well directed. Krasinski, I think, is a very good director. I think there's obvious... Like, I think I might have given him too much credit on the first one, because I feel like maybe the themes in that movie were accidental. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe he needs someone... I don't know. I don't want to say it's a terrible screenplay, because it's not bad, but there are obvious issues. So it'd be nice if he... I think this is only his second feature film. I probably should have looked that up. So, like, as a second feature film, it's fairly strong. It's not one of the best movies ever. It's obvious setup for a sequel, so obviously there'll be a Quiet Place trilogy. Maybe they bring the themes together in that one, in which case these complaints are meaningless. But as of right now, I feel like it's kind of just another entry. It doesn't really... It expands the story, but doesn't really add to it that much. I mean, technically it adds to it, but not in any way I find particularly interesting. It's an absolutely fine movie. I watched it, I didn't hate myself afterwards. It's adequate.